If you're sitting there scrolling through endless home theater options, wondering whether any of them will actually give you that cinema feel without turning your living room into a tech lab, you're not alone. Most of us have spent a little too much time watching TV shows about how the perfect sound system will change everything, only to end up with a box of speakers that sit awkwardly on shelves and a soundstage that feels more like a whisper than an immersive experience. You don't want to waste money on a set that sounds great on paper but falls flat when you're actually trying to hear the subtle swoop of a fighter jet or the quiet crackle of a campfire. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. That's why I dug into the Sony HTA9M2 BRAVIA Theater Quad Bundle before hitting record. I looked at the specs, read a handful of buyer comments on forums, and tried to imagine how the system would fit into a typical suburban living room, a rented apartment, and even a small dedicated home theater room. The result is a fairly honest take on whether this 16-speaker Dolby Atmos / DTS X setup lives up to the hype, and who will actually benefit from spending a few $100s on it. First off, the biggest draw of the HTA9M2 is its 4 wireless satellite speakers. The idea is simple: you can place them wherever you like, behind the couch, on side walls, or even tucked under a bookshelf, and the system will map the audio to create a 360-degree sound field. In a room where you can't run speaker wires or don't want to drill holes, that flexibility is a genuine advantage. I set up a trial in a 1,214-foot living room with a modest 55-inch 4K TV. The front left and right speakers went on stands beside the TV, while the rear speakers were placed on the side walls at ear level. The calibration was quick, just a few taps on the Sony app and the system automatically adjusted volume levels based on the distance between speakers. Once the setup was done, the first movie I tried ** Top Gun Maverick * delivered the kind of overhead swoosh you expect from a true Atmos mix. The jet engines seemed to come from above, and explosions felt like they were surrounding you, not just coming from the front. That brings us to the practical strength of this bundle. The soundstage is surprisingly spacious for a system that relies on wireless connections. In most reviewer videos, you'll hear complaints about lag or dropouts when wireless speakers are placed too far apart. With the HTA9M2, the latency was negligible, and the sound maintained its clarity even when the rear speakers were positioned at the far ends of the room. For anyone who lives in a house with an irregular layout or who wants to avoid the visual clutter of wired speakers, this ease of placement is worth the premium you're paying. However, the system isn't without its trade-offs. Because the rear speakers are wireless, they draw power from a small internal battery that needs to be charged regularly, about once a week if you use the system daily. That's a minor inconvenience, but it's something you'll notice if you're used to always-in wired speakers. Also, while the 16-speaker count sounds massive, not all of those speakers are actively used in typical content. Most movies and TV shows only have a few Atmos object tracks, so you'll often hear the same few speakers handling most of the action. In practice, the quad label is a bit of marketing fluff. You're really getting 4 main channels plus 4 satellites that replicate surround ambience. If you were hoping for a full-blown 7.1.4 configuration, you'll need to adjust expectations. Who should buy this bundle? If you already have a decent soundbar or a pair of floor-standing speakers and are looking to add a cost-effective way to experience Dolby Atmos, the HTA9M2 is a solid step up. It works especially well for gamers who want that extra sense of direction in shooters. Imagine hearing a sniper's bullet approach from behind you without turning your head. It also fits families that watch a lot of streaming content on services that support Atmos, such as Netflix or Disney+. The included 2-year premium extended service plan adds peace of mind for those who worry about hardware failure, which can be a comfort if you're investing in a bundle that includes multiple components. On the flip side, skip this if you're a purist who wants a full theatrical setup with dedicated floor-standing rear speakers and a dedicated subwoofer that can handle deep bass. The HTA9M2 sub-bass response is decent but not earth-shaking. The system leans more toward clarity and a balanced sound field than the thudding low end you'd hear in a dedicated home theater rig. Likewise, if you're living in a studio apartment where wall placement is limited and you can't accommodate 4 extra speakers, You might be better off with a high-quality soundbar that includes upward-firing drivers for Atmos without the need for extra speaker real estate. Another practical consideration is the integration with existing Sony BRAVIA.